enough. See folks joining. Feel free to say hey. I'll give you a shout out. Hey, Jason, nice to see you. Who else is here? While we're waiting, I'll let you all see my guest who's visiting. He's in a bad mood. He's not feeling very well today, which is why he's here with me. So we'll just wait for a few more folks to come in, arrive, and looks like there's a little bit of a delay, but looks like things are working pretty well. So share this video with your friends, post it to your Facebook. Hey, Jennifer, nice to see you. Post it to your Facebook and invite your friends to come join you and hang out with us while we do an update for 2017. Let's see. I'm going to get myself ready. Looks like everything is working fine. I'll wait until we've got 12 people. And in the meantime, let us know where you're tuning in from. Say hey. Hey, Charlie, nice to see you. Welcome. And we'll get started in just a minute. It's really dark out. Hopefully this light will suffice. I need to kind of change the setup now that it's winter. Okay, we're at the magic number of 12. Actually, we're at 13. So hi, everybody. I haven't seen everyone who's here. Feel free to continue to say hey. Let us know when you're tuning in from. And welcome. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to share the link to the live feed on your own page to bring in your friends, invite them to join you. Hey, Tom from Alabama. Nice to see you. Hey, Ambrosia from Carson City, Nevada. Nice to see you too. So welcome to this edition of Move to Amend's monthly live stream, the Move to Amend Report. This is the space where you can hear the latest about what's going on in the movement to amend the Constitution and legalize democracy. I'm your host, Caitlin Saposi-Belknap. I'm Move to Amend's National Director. You can find us here normally on the fourth Wednesday of every month at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern, right here on Facebook Live, doing it on a different day this month just because of the holidays. This is the last live report of 2017, so we're going to do a brief take on the current news, but also give an end of the year wrap up, as well as what to look forward to in 2018. So please comment where you're tuning in from, and if you have any questions for us at any point, we will be happy to answer your questions in real time. Thanks to Garrett, who is helping me out. He'll be posting links to references that I cite and help me make sure that I see your questions as well. So first things first, we can't ignore the GOP tax bill, aka scam, that was passed this morning, which was a shameless 1.4 trillion tax giveaway that will primarily benefit the wealthiest and their corporations in a time when corporations are already reporting record profits and the rest of us not so much. At the literal expense of everyone else and future generations, this tax bill was passed. Beginning on January 1st, this tax bill will do a number of things. It will repeal the Affordable Care Act's individual mandate, which will raise health insurance premiums in states that did not expand Medicare coverage. It allows oil drilling in Alaska's Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, which will cause irreparable harm to the fragile ecosystem and speed up the process of man-made climate change. It'll permanently cut corporate income tax from 35% to 21%, while temporarily cutting income tax for the next 8 years for everyone else. It repeals the 20% corporate alternative minimum tax, which was set up to ensure profitable corporations pay at least some tax before they take it offshore. And it exempts U.S. corporations from U.S. taxes on most future foreign profits, ending the present worldwide system of taxing profits of all U.S.-based corporations, no matter where their profits are earned. and it raises the exemption for estate and gift taxes from $5 million to $10 million per person, and indexes the new exemption level for inflation, allowing even more wealthy families to avoid paying taxes on their inheritances. So basically terrible. Consumer spending, ordinary workers like you and me make up 70% of the U.S. economic output, and yet all of the benefits we'll enjoy are temporary, barely 8 years, and actually increase our tax burden when they're gone. While Republicans have promised these tax reforms will, quote, pay for themselves by spurring economic growth in the form of more jobs and business investments, aka a trickle-down approach, the very billionaires and corporate donors who openly threatened to pull their funding if they failed on getting this tax bill passed have also openly admitted that they will use their tax cuts to buy back stock and enrich their shareholders, further consolidating corporate power in even fewer hands. When big banks like Bank of America and Goldman Sachs support such a cruel tax plan, it's a clear sign that we the people are getting screwed over. I've been talking about it as like we're getting let them eat caked, which is basically where we're at. And speaking of getting screwed over, last week, the Federal Communications Commission voted to kill net neutrality and allow internet service providers to create internet, quote, fast lanes that would charge internet content providers and customers higher rates while giving them the power to throttle internet speeds for content that they, the companies, don't like. Once again, this is another decision by our government in which the only beneficiaries are massive corporations, specifically the telecom corporations like Comcast, AT&T, and Verizon, which is where the FCC chairman just happened to work before his appointment to the FCC. If these latest injustices are not the appearance of quid pro quo corruption the Supreme Court claimed wouldn't happen from increased political spending after Citizens United, then I don't really know what is. These problems are far bigger than Donald Trump, who is actually a mere symptom and is not just one political party to blame. This is emblematic of a profoundly undemocratic system in the United States where wealthy private owners have always been prioritized and where their corporations have inalienable constitutional rights, which they can assert better than any human being or our communities, which basically gives them the power to determine public policy no matter who we vote into office. So that raises the theme that we're taking into the new year. We can't vote our way out of this mess, and that will be our refrain in 2018. While we can't afford to ignore these issues, and we're going to, at Move to Amend, continue to fight for net neutrality and do what we can to resist the corporate takeover through the tax bill and all other areas. We did want to talk about our accomplishments this year and bring some optimism to the story. So let me take a moment just to see if there's any questions yet. Hey, Martin from Silver Spring, Maryland. Hey, Bill from Dayton, Ohio. Hey to anybody else who I missed. Nice to see you here. So let's talk about Move to Amend, highlights from 2017. Let's start with our core bread and butter, the We the People Amendment. This is the amendment that Move to Amend wrote and has had introduced in Congress 3 times now. We started out 2017 with a goal of reaching 35 co-sponsors in the House of Representatives. But today, as we close out the year, Congress is basically done, so we don't expect any new co-sponsors to come on for 2017, but we are at 52 co-sponsors. So we blew our goal for the year out of the water. This is actually well beyond our 2018 goal of 45 co-sponsors. But obviously we're going to keep the momentum up and go into next year and readjust our goal so that we continue to grow. So we did great in the House of Representatives this year. We fell short of our goal to get the We the People Amendment introduced in the U.S. Senate, but we are making solid relationships with the staff of various senators, and we have made a lot of progress in that area as well. A lot more receptivity, kind of more in-depth questions on their part. So moving towards getting agreement and Senate support. So I expect we'll be able to shore up that goal next year if we keep the pressure on. So I will be in DC in January to follow up again with staff of senators that we're targeting. And so progress is happening. There are lots of distractions in Washington, DC right now. So it's a little bit slow going for that reason as well. But we will continue to turn the heat on as soon as we get to January and Congress comes back in session. I see Martin asking if there's any Republican co-sponsors. Yes, we do have one Republican co-sponsor, Walter Jones from North Carolina, and we'll continue to work on getting others as well. So, We the People Lobby. That was another one of our programs for this last year. This momentum was really clear in terms of Congress during the summer when we had the We the People Lobby campaign during the August recess. We prepared hundreds of volunteers with information and materials to go out and meet and lobby their legislators to support the We the People amendment. So we're doing that work at national. I go to DC pretty regularly. We're actually hiring a new person in the DC area for next year. But it's not enough for those of us at national to keep the pressure on. It's important that folks hear from their constituents. That's actually the most effective way to reach our representatives and senators. So that is why we train folks on how to lobby, how to set up lobby visits, how to answer questions. We have materials that folks use when they go do these meetings. And so, and this is all, relatively new for us. We actually didn't really start focusing our attention on DC until last year. And Move to Amend will be 8 years in January, but we've only been really working on the lobbying side of things for the last few years. And we continue to do all of our movement building work, of course, too, because we still believe that the primary target for growing this movement and success is the American public, but we definitely don't want to let our elected officials off the hook, and so that's why we're making sure to expand our capacity there. So let's see. Every meeting that came as a result of the We the People lobby campaign is crucial to keeping the issue of corporate power and money in politics at the front and center of our elected officials' minds. There are many distractions in DC, and it's easy to forget about the root cause of the corruption in this country, that corporations have constitutional rights, which means that profits are prioritized over human well-being. So every time we talk to our legislators and let them know that that's actually what the problem is and that we're watching to see which side they are on, is moving us forward. I see your comment, Charlie. I will actually be in Washington. I think it's January 15th through 19th. So sounds like you will be back, and we can get together, and it would be great to have some folks from the DC area join me in some lobby meetings. So I'm going to keep it moving, but at any time, feel free to ask questions. Garrett's posting links to the programs that I'm referencing. So if you want to learn more and get involved in the new year in those issues, then please click the links that Garrett's posting in the comments, and don't hesitate to ask me if you've got any questions or if you want to weigh in on what we're talking about. So the next campaign I want to talk about is Pledge to Amend. Pledge to Amend is our campaign to focus on candidates running for office and get them to pledge their support for the amendment and use their office if they're elected to further the movement to amend, whether they're running for state legislature, Congress, but also local office as well. So this year we got 24 new Pledge to Amend signups from state and local candidates. It was an off-year election, so mostly focusing on local races. So they've pledged to use their power if elected to, when selected, to advance support for the We the People amendment. This is a really great way to keep corporate constitutional rights on the minds of candidates and voters, and also it's just a good strategy to plant seeds in local candidates, because those candidates, people who are our city council members, are the ones who are most likely to run for state legislature and ultimately for Congress. So getting in the story of corporate constitutional rights early and making sure that they understand how it affects both them as elected officials, but also their community is important to build these relationships, because the folks who are elected now are probably not going to actually be the ones who are going to pass the amendment and ratify it. But it's likely that those folks already do hold office and are on their way to higher seats. And it's important that we get in with them, you know, while they're still our city council members or our county supervisors or what have you. So this Pledge to Amend campaign is ongoing, and the 2018 midterms are coming up next year, so it'll be a big election year. We'll be doing a lot of work on Pledge to Amend. It's more important than ever to get out there and ask candidates to take the pledge to support the movement to amend the Constitution. You can also take the voter pledge, and the voter pledge is, as a voter, pledging to only support candidates that support overturning Citizens United and ending all corporate constitutional rights. So these two pieces kind of go together for the Pledge to Amend campaign. Our candidates are only going to care about taking the pledge if we can show that it matters to their voters, right? So making sure that we take the pledge as voters and that we let our candidates know that this is a litmus test issue for us. If they're not on the right side of the We the People amendment, then we don't want to see them in office. And sometimes they might be down in a number of other ways that we agree with, but on this issue need some work. And so making sure they know that this is actually as critical an issue as any other issue that is determining who we vote for, if not maybe more. So that's Pledge to Amend, and we'll definitely continue that on into 2018. In 2017, we also had a really exciting event. We held the third Democracy Convention. This time it was at the University of Minnesota. We do that event in partnership with a number of other organizations. Basically, the idea is that, let me fix this right here so I can continue to see your comments. So the Democracy Convention is an event that we hold with a number of other organizations. The idea is that it's basically all the kind of sectors of the democracy movement coming together at once under the umbrella of a democracy convention to help grow the movement and get us out of our silos and connect. So Move to Amend is always responsible for the democratizing the Constitution part of the Democracy Convention. The whole event featured panels and presentations for how our alleged democracy is clearly not a democracy. And we helped over 500 activists build grassroots organizing skills so they can mobilize in their own communities. And we had great conversations about not just the need for the We the People amendment, but actually beyond that, how to further democratize the Constitution, and looked at constitutions in other countries that actually are rooted in human rights, unlike the United States Constitution, which is rooted in property rights, and really had some exciting visioning that we did. And so we will likely be doing the next Democracy Convention in LA, and details will come out about that as we get closer, either, probably not 2018, but we'll be continuing that important event, as it's kind of the only place where people from all different environmental justice, workers' rights, climate change, election integrity, we talk about expanding the Constitution, racial justice, all come together and kind of look at our work through the lens of how do we build power, how do we build a democracy. So it's one of my favorite events, and we'll definitely continue to work with our friends at Liberty Tree and the other partner organizations to participate. Barnstorming. I want to talk about barnstorming. Barnstorming is what we call our speaking tours. So in the tradition of the mighty populist movement, Move to Amend's experienced and acclaimed speakers continued our tours around the country this year, spreading the word about the campaign to amend the Constitution and inspiring action. We made visits to 10 states, including Delaware, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, Oregon, Colorado, Washington, Minnesota, Florida, and California. Our speakers give rousing talks. We tell the story of the American creation myth and the Constitution as it pertains to corporate personhood and the illegitimate but legal corporate constitutional rights. It's about an hour of facilitated discussion, and then we have Q&A. That's lots of times where our new affiliates come from. So the goal of Move to Amend's barnstorming tours is to educate, inspire action, and identify local organizers to start Move to Amend affiliate groups. These events are always free and open to the public. So we'll be continuing barnstorming on in 2018, actually starting right off in the new year in January. We'll be in Florida in January. My colleague George Friday, who is one of our founding board members and an excellent speaker, she will be barnstorming through Florida next month. I will be in Washington, D.C., as I already said. Then my colleague Greg Coleridge, our outreach director, will be barnstorming in Texas in February. I will be in Louisiana for an event in New Orleans at the beginning of February, but then going on to stop in Mississippi and Alabama and the Florida Panhandle as well in February. We'll be in Arizona in March, and it's looking like Montana and Idaho in April. So that's just the beginning part of the year. The rest of the dates are getting pinned down. If you would like to bring a Move to Amend speaker to your community in 2018, now would be a great time to submit a request. Garrett will post the link where you can do that. And we would love to travel to your community and put you on the map. And even if we've already been there before, if we're due back for a visit, we'd love to come back. So let us know if that would be a good, if stopping in your town would be a good thing for us to do in 2018. To make all of this possible, our last project this year, and we kind of have to close out every year this way, is our end of the year fundraising campaign, where we need to raise $175,000 to end the year in the black. Basically, this is really typical of the way organizations work. A lot of money gets raised in December as folks are thinking about this. And so in some ways, unfortunately, we kind of have to build our budget and our work around this. So we sort of have to shore up the year in December. And it's always a little bit of a nail biter. So we're at around $40,000. We will be announcing tomorrow a very exciting development that we have a donor who just agreed to match donations up to $20,000 here for the end of the year. So if you donate now through the end of the year, not only will you help us meet our goal, which is really important, but your donation will be matched by one of our awesome supporters. And so now is a great time to make that donation. And if you think that this work is important, then we need you to help finance it with at least a few dollars. All of us on staff at Move to Amend are monthly donors. All of our board members are monthly donors as well. This is, something that we think is really important. So we put our money where our mouth is too. And I'm asking you to join us. So please stay tuned for our emails. Apologies in advance that we're going to have to send a bunch, but we will stop as soon as we get to 175,000. So the sooner we get there, the sooner we can go back to talking about all the work we're going to do and how to plug in with that. So I want to acknowledge our affiliates. That's what we call our local leaders, our local chapters, our affiliates, and we couldn't do this work without them. Move to Amend is rooted in grassroots organizing. That's why we're set up the way that we are. And so the work of our affiliates is really where most of the organizing actually happens. Those of us at National are just doing the work to support their amazing organizing. So I want to give a whole bunch of shout outs to our volunteers and supporters for some of their accomplishments this year. So shout out to our volunteers and supporters in Oregon who helped organize and attend the Oregon Barnstorming Tour earlier this month that I just came back from. I traveled to 6 cities for public talks, and thank you so much to our affiliates in Bend, Corvallis, Portland, Salem, for their great organizing and hosting my stops, and also arranging our visit with Senator Merkley's staff. It was great to see all of you and great to be in Oregon again. Looking forward to a new group in Astoria and perhaps reviving our group in Eugene. Also, shout out to East Bay, California, Move to Amend. That's, San Francisco Bay Area, but East Bay is more Oakland, Berkeley, and our Sacramento area Move to Amend, both in California, for a great meeting that they had with Senator Kamala Harris's staff, along with climate activists and organized labor at UAW. East Bay Move to Amend, in particular, Lawrence Abbott worked very hard to secure a meeting with Senator Harris's staff. He's been working on that for months, literally. Finally was able to get them to agree. Move to Amend was invited to join this meeting by UAW Local 5810, a local union of university professors and teachers, grad students, to speak on how climate change and the struggle for labor rights intersect with the unfettered power of corporations using inalienable rights. So also shout out and thank you to 5810, UAW 5810, for letting us join you in that meeting. The meeting went very well and serves as a great example of why we need to stand in solidarity with organized labor and earn their support. So want to invite folks to participate in our labor caucus if you're connected with organized labor. And if you're not, encourage you to approach labor unions and central labor councils in your community and ask them to join Move to Amend as an endorsing organization. And this wasn't in our scripts, but maybe Garrett, you could take a second, grab the page on the Labor Caucus and post that. That's where folks can find information for how to reach out to organized labor, or also if you are either a current or retired member of a labor union, we would love to have you join us on the Labor Caucus. Also want to give a shout out to our newest and revitalized affiliates who joined the Move to Amend Coalition in 2017. Big thanks to affiliate volunteers in Winona area Move to Amend, which is in Winona, Minnesota. Lakes area Move to Amend, which is in Brainerd, Minnesota. And then welcome back to Montana Move to Amend, based in Missoula. Sacramento area Move to Amend, based here in Sacramento, and Greater Cincinnati Move to Amend in Cincinnati, Ohio. So welcome and welcome back, and to the new folks who helped reconstitute several of those affiliates. It's been awesome to work with you. Looking forward to working together in 2018. And a shout out to Anchorage, Alaska, Move to Amend, for securing their 21st endorsement of Anchorage Community Councils. They've been hard at work passing resolutions in more than half, 21 out of 36 of the local neighborhood governments within their area. Now their target is the Anchorage City Council, where they're aiming to introduce and pass a Move to Amend resolution. So keep up the great work in Alaska. A shout out to Move to Amend Tuscaloosa, Alabama, for all of their tremendous work. Tuscaloosa has been working hard to build their membership and coalition by standing in solidarity with local labor organizations, fighting for a livable minimum wage, part of the Fight for 15, and continuous outreach to local progressive organizations, congregations, and political parties. So Tuscaloosa is in a pretty red state, but they are carrying the Move to Amend flag, and I'm looking forward to hopefully getting to visit you all in February. And a shout out to Northern Arizona Move to Amend for their continued outreach and stepping up for public talks and presentations given around the Prescott, Arizona area. We're super proud of them for taking a stand when they were wrongly excluded and censored from participating in their local 4th of July parade by officials accusing their part in the parade as being too political. Imagine that on the 4th of July. Not ones to stand down from threats to their freedom of speech. They were inspired to write several letters to their local news outlets and raise awareness and bring attention to a movement that transcends red versus blue politics. So keep up the good fight, Prescott. Shout out to Nevada County, California Move to Amend on Pledge to Amend. They have 3 candidates that have pledged to amend, that they're working to get pledges from, who are running against state incumbent Doug LaMalfa, who is a Congress member who is not a supporter of the We the People Amendment. So looking to help educate some of his opponents on why they should be supporters of Move to Amend, and they're having good success in Nevada County. Delray Beach, Florida Move to Amend did great outreach to local schools and were recently invited to do a presentation based on paper that a high school student wrote about corporate personhood, and now the Move to Amend group is going to do a presentation in that class and continue on the conversation. So shout out to that high school student for looking into a really important issue, and awesome work, Delray Beach, working with folks who are younger than our normal audience. Winona area Move to Amend gets a shout out for securing several endorsements, including the Minnesota Green Party and the Winona Human Rights Commission, and their incredible outreach to local schools and universities throughout their area. And the Minnesota State Network has done great work in outreaching to local communities, elected officials, and candidates throughout their state. They've secured hundreds of petition signatures, dozens of Pledge to Amend signers, going after school board races, which is really important, and supported several new affiliates and working groups to join the Move to Amend coalition. As I said, several of our new affiliates this year were in Minnesota, thanks to the work that their state network is doing to make sure that they've got coverage in their whole state. And shout out to the Ohio Move to Amend State Network for all their hard work to pass local legislation supporting the We the People Amendment and establishing local democracy days within their city and county governments. Several of these local laws were passed in 2016, with several cities, including Toledo, the largest city in Ohio to date, to pass a Move to Amend resolution, observing their first democracy days this year. So democracy days are a tool invented by the Ohio Move to Amend folks to get around the fact that in Ohio, citizens are not allowed to run ballot initiatives on issues that are not binding. So our resolutions, our proclamations to Congress calling for the amendment and calling for our state legislators to support the amendment unfortunately are not legal in Ohio because they don't actually change the law or create legislation. And so to get around that and actually in kind of a better solution than even just a resolution, the Ohio Move to Amend folks created this legislation that they can run by ballot initiative, which calls on Congress to pass the amendment, calls on their state representatives to ratify it, and also sets up a day, which they're calling Democracy Days, on the part of the city that passes this ballot initiative. And that's a day that is either every year or every other year, depending on the community, where citizens come together with their elected officials in a sanctioned, officially endorsed by the city public hearing to, got some cat stuff here, to find out what the status is on the amendment campaign, what the city has done to move it forward, and also what the city is doing in a larger sense to help ensure democracy for the residents and the community members who live there. So it's a way to institutionalize in each city the campaign for the amendment. And so we're really excited about that tactic and would love to see other states using it. Oregon has a similar situation where they're not allowed to do non-binding ballot initiatives. Actually, in California, that's probably the case for us too, although there are some that have happened. And so Democracy Day legislation is a great model for us to use all over. And also it makes it so that in so many communities, we had initiatives pass maybe 4 or 5 years ago at this point, and do folks remember? But if there was a Democracy Day, there would be a standing day where the papers would talk about it, the city council would have a conversation about it, we could turn people out and have a discussion and make sure that it stays on everyone's radar. So look for us to continue and expand that technique and tactic on into 2018 and beyond. And lastly, I want to give a shout out to all of our affiliates who completed our 7-session movement education program in 2017. Our movement education program is a tool and process to help Move to Amend leaders become more effective organizers who understand the close relationship between structural oppression based on race, class, gender, etc., and the current dire state of our democracy and corporate power. So by the end of the 7 sessions, Move to Amend affiliates create a local solidarity organizing plan for how to raise awareness about the nature of corporate rule in their own communities, while also building authentic and trusting relationships with people from groups that are hardest hit by structural oppression, which tends to be communities of color, women, immigrants, and low-income people, and young folks. And with organizers on the front lines of the struggle against injustice and corporate rule. So this is our effort to make sure that this is as diverse a movement as possible, that this is an intergenerational movement, that this is a multiracial movement, and that we have an intersectional analysis in doing all of our work. So congratulations to Portland Alliance for Democracy in Portland, Oregon, to in Ohio, to the greater Dayton, Toledo, Columbus, which is Central Ohio, Move to Amend, Shaker Heights, and Cleveland Heights Move to Amend affiliates, Humboldt County, California, based in Eureka. In Pennsylvania, our Move to Amend affiliates in Wayne County and Lower Bucks County, both finished their movement education program, and Jefferson County Move to Amend in Port Townsend, Washington. So congratulations and thank you to all of you. Great work, and to everyone who has already done the movement education program in years past, obviously. So we can't name every single one of our affiliates, but they actually all deserve a shout out. So thank you for your great work, and keep it up. And then just a few things about 2018. We'll do, our live report in 2018. We'll also probably talk a good deal about what we've got planned for the year ahead. And we also have a webinar scheduled on January 9th. Actually, Garrett, can you post the link to the webinar? If you go to the webinars page, the RSVP page is up. It would be great for folks to join us. We'll go into more detail about how you can get involved in 2018, but a few highlights that we want to mention now. The anniversary of Citizens United is coming up on January 21st. This will be 8 years of Citizens United. It's also Move to Amend's public birthday. We actually were formed kind of before Citizens United and rooted in work that had been going on for decades before Citizens United, but officially Move to Amend as a coalition launched publicly on January 21st, 2010. So we're looking to do a day of action to raise awareness about Citizens United and the underlying doctrines behind Citizens United. We're asking folks to show up publicly to remind your community about the extreme dangers of corporate rule and act locally to be part of the National Day of Action on the 8th anniversary of Citizens United. So for anybody who maybe doesn't remember, on January 21st, 2010, the Citizens United versus FEC Supreme Court ruling opened up the floodgates for corporations and also nonprofit front groups wishing to keep their funders anonymous to spend unlimited funds on political ads. And we're approaching the 8th anniversary of this dangerous ruling. It's more important than ever that we pass the We the People Amendment to end corporate constitutional rights and money as speech. But it's also really important that we help folks understand that Citizens United was only just, at that time, the latest example of corporations asserting their constitutional rights and the Supreme Court agreeing, and didn't actually start there. And actually hasn't ended there because there have been subsequent rulings since Citizens United. But it's an important date nonetheless. So we invite you to show up in your community this January to create a spectacle, to make a scene, to use creative civil disobedience to create visibility and send a message to your community about the movement to end corporate rule and legalize democracy. So some of the ideas that we have, and you're welcome to add your own, displaying distress flags, whether it's doing the U.S. flag upside down, which is a known symbol for distress and urgent assistance needed. Also using the corporate flag could be worked in there as well, which we sell on our site at cost. Singing in the halls, so disrupting official meetings. January 21st is a Sunday, but carrying it on into the week after in Congress and potentially state legislatures as well. Street messaging, doing literature dropping, flash mobs, revealing what's behind the curtain, so kind of a theatrical showing of kind of who's behind, whether it's the tax bill or the ending of net neutrality, displaying that that's actually coming from, you know, corporate donors who are working the puppet strings of our elected officials. Public money stamping, we're going to be partnering up with our friends at Stamp Stampede to stamp US dollars with messages calling for the amendment. And overpass light displays. So all of these things might not make sense to you, but if you go, Garrett is going to post the link to our page on the action, and you can kind of get more information about each one of these details and ideas for how you might plug in. And if you've got your own ideas, you're welcome to use those as well. So I hope folks will turn out on January 21st and we can raise a ruckus. And also want to make sure that everybody knows that in 2018 we will be doing our second ever National Leadership Summit. And this will be in Washington, D.C., June 8th through 11th. It'll feature another We the People Lobby Day. We had the first National Leadership Summit in 2016, so time for the second one. We'll be at Trinity University. You don't want to miss this event. We'll have excellent trainings, deep political education, community building, empowering lobby day, and more. Many people who attended the 2016 event, seasoned organizers who have been to many a conference, said that it was the best conference they'd ever been to, and everyone agreed that it was a really good conference. So we want to make sure to top that. So please join us at the Leadership Summit, and we have a page on our site where you can sign up to get notification as soon as registration opens, which we expect to happen in January. So don't miss it. You can sign up right now to find out all the details as soon as we have them. We're working that out, and we'll have it in the next few weeks. So that was a lot of talking from me, but wanted to run through the year and the highlights. And, you know, it's not been a great couple weeks / year in many ways for, you know, social justice and this planet. But we have had a lot of good success at Move to Amend, thanks to the work of those of you who are tuning in, and everybody who helps make the movement to amend what it is, all of our grassroots volunteers, all of our awesome staff team, our national leadership team, our donors. And if you're not yet part of the movement to amend, there's no better time to join us than right now. So I want to pitch again, if you would please contribute a donation before the end of the year to help us meet our goal, to make sure that we can do all that we're planning for 2018. Everyone who donates at least $20 will be entered in a raffle, and for the January live report, I will be announcing the raffle winners, so you want to do that now so that you can get in on that. But the main reason to do it is because this work is so critical and important. There is no other group like Move to Amend. There is no group that is working on the two systemic doctrines behind the Citizens United decision and all of the other cases that have built a system of corporate rule that is grassroots based, that is rooted in transparency and local democracy and social justice and organizing for real power. And we are proud of the work we do. We're a very unique organization, and we can't do it without you. So if you would please pitch in, help make it possible for us to do this work, we would really appreciate it. Whatever amount you can afford, we would love. And starting tomorrow, donations will be matched. So whatever you give will be doubled. So now's the great time to do it. So I'm happy to stick around for a little bit longer if anyone has any questions or comments for me. Hey, Norm, nice to see you. So feel free to post any questions that you have in the comments, and I will do my best to answer them. If you're tuning in and you're not live, you can still post comments in questions in the comments, and our social media team will make sure to respond to you and get an answer as soon as we can. Our office will also be closed. This was our last day, so we'll be closed starting tomorrow for a couple weeks. Our team will still be working, but we're going to be doing it a little bit, from home and from visiting family. But our team never rests, so we'll be on the job, but we'll also be trying to take a little bit of a break. So thanks in advance if you try to contact us and it takes a little bit longer for us to get back to you. So I'm not seeing any questions, Garrett, but it's possible that if there were any earlier, I missed them. I was trying to kind of look on my phone while we went, but I didn't catch everything. So let me know if there's anything that I missed. I want to make sure to not skip over anyone. But not seeing anything yet. Just clicking in here to make sure. Oh, there we go. There's the chat. No questions. Okay. Well, last call. If you do have any questions, now's the time to ask them. And again, if you're not listening live, but you're listening to the recording, please post your questions too, and we'll get them answered. All right. Well, sounds like that is a wrap for. Thanks, Norm. We will enjoy our time off. Bill's asking, where are the links posted going to show up? Those show up in the comments on the feed. So you can, when the video is done, those will still be in the comments. So you'll be able to come back to them if you want to find any of them. So, okay, well, I guess I'm going to sign off then, but it was great spending the last 45 minutes with you, hour or so. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sharing this video on your walls to help bring folks here. Thanks for all you do for Move to Amend. It's really not hyperbole. We couldn't do this without you. When we launched Move to Amend, it was kind of right about now that we were sort of making sure we had everything ready. We knew the Supreme Court wasn't going to make a decision, over the basically like holiday time, but we knew it was going to come out, as early as, the beginning of January. So we were ready to go. And we honestly expected, maybe a few more hundred people to kind of hear our call for a more systemic solution to the problem of the Supreme Court giving corporations constitutional rights and not just making the issue about money and politics. And we were blown away by the tens of thousands of people. Now it's hundreds of thousands of people who are part of this movement. And, we really couldn't do this without you. So thanks for being part of the team in whatever way you are. And pat yourself on the back and maybe resolve in 2018 to take it up just a little bit more with whatever time you can spare, whatever resources you can spare, whatever extra dollars you can spare, because this planet needs Move to Amend to succeed. And I really believe that. That's why I do this work. So thanks for all you do. And with that, I will wish you happy holidays and a happy new year.